In engineering physics, we are trying to understand the physics of the nucleus, where in the last session we looked at various models of nuclei and their comparative analysis. Now, in the current session, we look at the important concept called nuclear fission and fusion, wherein these are some of the objectives which we are focusing now. Now, here we'll try to understand the basics of nuclear reaction, and then we'll try to recognize the key features of nuclear fission and fusion reactions. We shall try to understand the mechanism of artificial nuclear transmutations, and we'll try to define and express nuclear cross section, and thereby we shall try to explain the mechanism of nuclear fission on the basis of liquid drop model. Also, we will try to discuss the nuclear fusion reactions, and also we shall try to predict the controlled nuclear fission and various types of nuclear fuel. And at the end, we will try to discuss the spontaneous fission and working of various nuclear weapons like atomic bomb, hydrogen bomb, neutron bomb, etc. As we have seen in radioactivity and parts of atomic structure and nuclear understanding, the reactions observed in radioactive materials occur spontaneously, and they involve a conversion of mass into kinetic energy of decay products. Mainly, conversion of mass into kinetic energy of the decay products. There is another class of nuclear reactions that can be artificially induced. Something like this given as an example. This is bombarding of a nitrogen nucleus with an alpha particle. Alpha particle is bombarded to nitrogen nucleus. In this case, the sum of the masses of elements on the left hand side of the equation is less than the sum of masses of the decay products on the right hand side of the equation. So for the reaction to proceed, some initial kinetic energy must be supplied to the left hand side reactants. Such energy, again through Einstein mass energy equivalent equation, gets converted into mass of the products. We shall discuss relevant examples to illustrate to you later. So therefore, based on that, generally two types of such nuclear reactions are possible. One is called fusion, another is called fission reactions. Now when you look at fusion reaction, fusion is such a nuclear reaction where lighter elements fuse into heavier ones, like the one given here. Hydrogen with 1-1 combination combined, it becomes into 1-2 combination with a positron and a neutron. Now interestingly, if you observe, again, if you combine this at another example, this 1H2, when again added, then becomes 1H4, a neutron and energy is emitting out. So this process, this is the nuclear process of fusion. Lighter nuclei H2 and H3 fuse together to form heavier nuclei helium-4, thereby releasing large amount of energy. Fusion reactions, in fact, are the main source of energy for the sun and also are used in certain types of nuclear weapons like hydrogen bomb. So this is the basic schematic understanding you need to have for the clear understanding of fusion reaction. Similarly, if you look at fission, now fission type nuclear reactions, if you see, where heavier elements are broken into lighter ones, like the example given here. So uranium-235, when bombarded with a neutron, it is breaking into two different nuclei like uranium-235 and barium-141. Barium and krypton. So barium 141 and krypton 92, along with emission of three more neutrons along with energy. So schematically you can look at fission reaction like this. Here N refers to now neutrons. So interesting feature of this neutron induced reaction is the presence of neutrons in the products. So the initial kinetic energy of the reacting neutrons is relatively small, and the released neutrons can induce reactions in the nearby uranium atoms. That means such a chain reaction is the basis of the design of the nuclear reactors as well as nuclear weapons. So one interesting feature you have to obtain is, you have to understand is the presence of neutrons in the products. So when you find neutrons in the output, initial Ke of the reacting neutrons is relatively small, and the released neutrons can induce further reactions in the nearby uranium atoms. So this becomes a chain reaction, and that is the basis for the design of all the nuclear reactors and also the nuclear weapons. So the typical energies involved in nuclear reactions are in the order of million electron volts, that is 10 power 6 electron volts, and compared to the electron volt scale of a chemical reaction. So due to the relatively large kinetic energy needed for the initial reactants, fusion based nuclear reactors are not economically feasible. So let us understand these reactions, nuclear reactions, in detail now. Nuclear reactions are completely independent of the chemical reactions in the sense that nuclear energies are of a much larger magnitude. So therefore, an atom that has undergone a nuclear reaction reacts chemically in a manner similar to atoms which have not. There you can see four major types of nuclear reactions. The one is fission. Fission is the splitting of a nucleus into two daughter nuclei. For example, you take uranium-235. When bombarded with neutron, it has been broken into two daughter nuclei. One is barium, another is krypton, along with the release of 3 neutrons and 200 million electron volts of energy. The other major type of nuclear reaction is what we have seen earlier as fusion. Fusion is of two parent nuclei combining into one daughter nuclei. You see here two protons combining into form helium-1,2. The emission of a positron and a neutrino with an energy release of 0.42 million electron volts. Here nu stands for neutrino. So the energy yields of fusion reaction of hydrogen and helium can be separately understood. And the third major type of nuclear reaction is neutron capture. Neutron capture is used to create radioactive isotopes in which the nuclear charge, that is Z atomic number, is unchanged. The nuclear mass, which is A, that is the number of protons plus number of neutrons treated as atomic mass, it increases by 1, and the number of neutrons increases by 1. This is another major type of nuclear reaction. And the fourth major type is the decay modes. So other decay modes where the nucleus spontaneously eject or capture one or more particles and lose energy to become nuclei of lighter atoms. Here we have to understand that fission and neutron capture start initially as same, but the difference is that in fission the excited nucleus is too unstable to stay together because of the extra neutron. In neutron capture, the new nucleus is simply radioactive, that is, participates in the decay modes of the next series. So among the four major types of nuclear reactions like nuclear fission, nuclear fusion, neutron capture and other decay modes, in this set of reactions, the first 3 steps occur twice for each occurrence of the 4th step. So this process takes place in all the main reaction sequence in the stars. Now, if you see the energy yields of fusion reactions of hydrogen, for example, so in a proton-proton fusion, you have energy yield of 0.42, whereas in a positron-positron fusion with a release of gamma radiation, you have 1.02 million electron volts release. In a hydrogen-proton fusion, you will have He3 with gamma radiation release with an energy of 5.49 million electron volts. Similarly, this He3, when combined with NaHe3, it becomes helium with the release of two more protons with an energy of 12.86. So, together, the total energy yield of fusion reaction of hydrogen you can get 26.72. Similarly, if you million electron volts. Similarly, if you see the energy yields of fusion reactions of helium, for example. Now, the helium-232, when combined with an alpha particle, becomes beryllium with a gamma radiation release and an energy yield of 1.5 million electron volts. This beryllium again fused with proton to become boron and gamma release with 1.3. This boron again combining with beryllium is giving beryllium with positron and neutrino. This beryllium-4 is decomposing into helium alpha particle with a release of 0.095. So total yield is 13.765 million electron volts. Now, this process always takes place in all the main reaction sequence in stars. For example, if you take the sun, it will continue for about another 5 billion years as per the estimation, when hydrogen supply will exhaust. It will then swell to encompass the orbits of first 4 planets as a red giant. The helium will be the main fuel. After helium is exhausted, more massive nuclei will fuse until iron is produced. The fusion of iron is endothermic. That means it requires more energy than it produces. So because of that, the star collapses under its own weight and each of them forms either a white dwarf, what is called the remnant of a small star, or it will be a supernova, that is nothing but explode. And the core will become a neutron star whose density is that of the nuclei. Or it can become a black hole, that is from which nothing can escape, even light, depending on its initial mass. The sun will probably end up as a dwarf, since its mass is below the Chandrasekhar mass required to become a black hole. It is interesting to note that everything in our solar system except primordial hydrogen and helium, which were made during the creation of the universe, including all of us, is made from matter that was created by fusion processes in a star and dispersed into space in a supernova explanation. For this reason, perhaps the sun is the second or perhaps the third generation star. So let us understand something what is known as artificial nuclear transmutations. Now, the nuclear structure can be investigated using nuclear reactions. It is possible to change the nuclei by bombarding them with energetic particles. Say, for example, in this equation A, B, etc. are energetic particles. Such a reaction is also a nuclear reaction. For example, you bombarded a nucleus, initial nuclei X, with a bombarding particle A, energetic particle. And Y is the product nucleus with the release of another particle. Now X is the initial nuclei, Y is the product nuclei. Now A, B are the bombarding particles. The typical bombarding particles, A, what we are calling here, they might be protons or neutrons or deuterons or alpha particles or any other ions. The charged projectile must have enough kinetic energy to penetrate the region of Coulomb repulsion around the nucleus. Otherwise, what happens? Rutherford scattering might occur. The energy of the projectiles capable of causing reactions must be of the order of several million electron volts. So such reactions obey conservation laws, conservation of mass number, The total number of nucleons must be the same after the collision as before. Similarly, conservation of charge, conservation of energy, this can be represented mathematically like this. This is the initial nuclear energy. This is the product nuclear energy along with the bombarding particle energy. So this is how conservation can be. The total kinetic energy released or absorbed is what is called reaction energy, which is always represented as quantity of heat. Therefore, the term Q. So if you simplify this equation and adjust it on either side, plus and minus, you will get this equation. Similarly, conservation of angular momentum constrains the orbital and nuclear spin quantum numbers of the participating nuclei. So therefore, the conservation laws lead to kinematic relations. For a reaction, for example, kinematic equations can be represented like this. That is, conservation of angular momentum constrains both the orbital as well as nuclear spin quantum numbers of the participating nucleids. So therefore, the conservation laws which we have discussed earlier lead to kinematic relations. Something like this. And in terms of energy, it can be given like this. So with this background, let us understand nuclear cross sections. Cross sections are referred by the alphabet sigma. The cross section is a measure of the probability of a particular nuclear reaction that will occur. The probability that an incident particle will interact with the target depends on the ratio of the effective area of the target nucleus to the area of the target. Each target nucleus has an effective area. That is what is called the cross section or sigma. Cross section will also depend on the energy of the incident target. For example, consider a target foil of thickness x and area A with n target nuclei per unit volume. The total numbers of target nuclei are NaX. The total area exposed to the incident beam is sigma NaX for sufficiently thin target. Therefore, the ratio of the rate of interactions R to the rate of incident particles R0 can be given as R by R0 equal to sigma NaX by A, that is sigma Nx. That is, let us say we are considering a target foil whose thickness is X and its area is A. Then the number of nuclei per unit volume is taken as N. The total number of target nuclei is taken, therefore it will be NaX. So total area exposed by the incident will be NaX multiplied by the cross section, that is sigma NaX. So from this, if R0 is the rate of incident particles and R is the rate of interactions, then the ratio between these two, that is R by R0, is nothing but sigma Nx from this. Likewise, the number of particles, if you take, same concept will apply. Then the number of particles penetrating the target is given by dn particles interacting with the target. Then n is the number of incident particles. That means if number of incident particles is taken as n, number of particles interacting with the target is taken as dn. Therefore, the number of particles penetrating the target will be the ratio. Negative sign indicates the direction. So, minus dn by dn, n is equal to minus na sigma dx by a. Therefore, n sigma dx. So, to get the n value, we just need to integrate this. So, integrate within the limits n and n naught. N is the number of particles emerging, n naught is the number of incident particles. So within the limits, if you integrate, and by taking the constant out of the integral operator, you will get minus n lambda into integral 0 to x of dx. That is nothing but x only. So in terms of natural logarithm, you can write n as n naught e power minus L lambda x. So for n naught incident particles, n is the number of particles emerging out from the target. So nuclear cross sections have dimensions of the area and units of Born, BAR and Born, defined as 1 Born equal to 10 power minus 28 meters square. These are used. Now, weak interaction cross sections are much smaller than strong interaction cross sections. That is, for example, if you take the cross section for the reaction, for the combination of neutrino and proton, then positron will emit out with neutron. It is of the order of 10 power minus 19 Born. In comparison to 4 bonds for the near reaction, that is neutron with iodine, let us say, then it becomes a radioactive element. This is what we need to know about cross sections. So if you summarize this session, we looked at understanding the basics of nuclear reaction, wherein we tried to understand the basic general types of nuclear reaction as basics of fusion and fission, and then we looked at nuclear reactions as completely independent of chemical reactions, in the sense that energies are much larger in magnitude. Therefore, atom which has undergone a nuclear reaction reacts chemically in a manner similar to atoms which have not. So, wherein we have seen there are four major types of nuclear reactions, such as nuclear fission, nuclear fusion, neutron capture, and other decay modes, wherein we have seen the energy yields of fusion reactions of hydrogen as well as energy yields of fusion reactions of helium, wherein we have studied that how reaction is taking place in a sun environment. Because for sun, it will continue for about another 5 billion years. What is what we said. Among the 4 steps, the first 3 steps automatically occur twice for each occurrence of the 4th step. That is for the other decay mode. So this process takes place in all main reaction sequence in stars. And wherein we have understood that for the sun, it will continue for about another 5 billion years when hydrogen supply will exhaust. Once it is exhausted, it will then swell to encompass the orbits of first 4 planets as a red giant. Then helium will be the main fuel. After helium is exhausted, I told you that more massive nuclei will fuse until iron is produced. The fusion of iron is endothermic. So because of that, the star collapses under its own weight, and each of them forms either a white dwarf or a supernova, and the core will become a neutron star or a black hole, depending on the initial mass. The sun will probably end up as a dwarf because its mass is below the Chandrasekhar mass required to become a black hole. Now here, one interesting thing to note that we have observed is that everything in our solar system except primordial hydrogen and helium, which were made during the creation of the universe, including all of us, is made from matter that was created by fusion process in a star and dispersed into space in a supernova explosion. Then we tried to understand something what is known as artificial nuclear transmutation, and we tried to understand nuclear cross section. Based on that, in the next session we shall try to focus in understanding nuclear fission and nuclear fusion in detail, along with understanding of controlled nuclear fission and spontaneous fission, leading us to understand the types of nuclear weapons like nuclear bombs, like fission bomb, fusion bomb, neutron bomb, followed by hydrogen bomb. That would be the discussion for the next session.